What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer is now going to be taking us into Raleigh, North Carolina. The NC State Wolfpack are coming up next for 2025 predictions, and an up and down year is uncharacteristic for Dave Doeren Group. So, can they get the pack back together and right the ship in 2025? My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate, and I want to thank you all so much for clicking on this video, for helping to support the channel. If you would like to do more to help support the channel, be my guest. Go right down below, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell. Turning on notifications will ensure you don't miss a single upload during prediction season, especially not one of your favorite team. Now, I do have a degree on the wall to prove it. I am a sports media professional, just started my new job in the industry, and if you want to see all the cool stuff I get to do while still keeping up to date on what goes on this very YouTube channel, you can give me a follow on social media, Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call the platform, and Instagram, it's at tailgatenate29, and feel free to even email me, tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me or the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. Again, apologies for the whole power outage thing, sort of out of my hands, but we're back now. We're going to get some 3 video days out. This is one of them, and we are here to talk about the NC State Wolfpack and their head man, I think I said it earlier, in Dave Doeren, one of the head coaches in the country that you just, in my opinion, quite simply don't count out. Now, there have been a ton of years here at NC State where there has been a ton of hype. This is not one of the bigger hype years. However, this is a year in which the expectation is you're supposed to flip around what happened last season during a 6-6 campaign. The people in Raleigh have expected better and expected more out of this Wolfpack group. We'll see if that's the case here in 2025. How do we do preview predictions? Well, we are going to go through a roster overview. The offense over here to the left, the defense over here to the right, and at the end of the video, we are going to go through the NC State football schedule. I will give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, and this video overall will tell you what I think about the NC State Wolfpack here in 2025. Before we do get started, though, right down below me, some returning production numbers. They are according to ESPN, and they do factor in transfer portal additions up to a certain percentage. And then even right down below that, your recruiting and transfer portal ranks for the class of 2025 are according to 24/7 Sports. With all of that said and done and out of the way, let's move on over here. Talk about Kurt Roper and the North Carolina State offense here in 2025. Last season, you kind of had a little bit of a revolving door in the quarterback room. Grayson McCall was transferring in, was expected to be that guy, and I believe there were some injury things that happened with him. Well, there's no more collegiate eligibility for Grayson McCall after throwing just 80 passes last season. So the guy that stepped in to fill his shoes was C.J. Bailey. Last season, as a freshman, 2,413 yards, 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions on around 65% completion percentage, around 8 yards per attempted pass. That's not per completion, that is per attempted pass. The number per completion is probably around the likes of 11, 12, maybe even 13 yards per completion. There were a lot of things that I really liked about CJ Bailey last season, and I know there were a lot of things that Wolfpack fans liked about CJ Bailey last season. Obviously, you want to clean up that touchdown to interception ratio, and it just comes with experience. Make a little bit better decision with the football, but overall, not bad. Not bad at all, man. CJ Bailey stepping in to be that full-time starter for you. We'll look to see how much he expands and improves off of that freshman campaign that he had in 2024. When you take a look at this running back room, overall, not a bad room. You do lose 2 400-yard rushers. They are both going to be gone and depart from this program. Your second leading rusher from last season in Jordan Waters, also a former product of the Duke Blue Devils, had 470 yards and 4 touchdowns, got the majority of the carries besides CJ Bailey last year. We'll talk about that in a second. With 95 of them, he is now with the LA Rams. When you also talk about their third leading rusher, that's Kendrick Raphael. He's entered the transfer portal, finding a new home. I still believe within the ACC. It might be Cal. I'll fact check myself on that in a minute. 425 yards and 3 touchdowns for him last season, and he is indeed going across the country to play in Berkeley with the California Golden Bears. However, Hollywood Smothers was overall your leading rusher last season and had the highest yard per carry mark out of any qualified rusher. 6.4 yards per carry. That's 89 carries and 571 yards to go along with a team high 6 touchdowns last season. I did mention CJ Bailey's name. he did technically lead the team in carries, and yes, sack yardage is included in that as well. He was sacked 23 times last season, so you do have to factor that in. But 99 carries, 279 yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns for CJ Bailey. So definitely, again, not a guy that is just going to sit back in the pocket and throw. He can get out, stretch the field, run with his legs, and be a guy that you have to be able to watch out for that way. Hollywood Smothers, again, is the lone returning mainstay. And when you look at other pieces in this running back room, Jaden Scott is a redshirt freshman that's going to get a lot more carries this year than he did last year. DeAndre Desinor is a true freshman that enters this room that maybe could see some solid time there. It's going to be mainly Hollywood Smothers this season. And get this, last season, even including CJ Bailey with 99 carries, no one in this running back room had more than 100 touches rushing the football. That's going to change this year with Hollywood Smothers. I think maybe even CJ Bailey, now that he's playing a full campaign, probably going to be a guy that's going to try to run the ball, 100 times or so, again, sack yardage including in that. Casey Concepcion, Dakari Collins, 2 huge wideout losses, especially that of Casey Concepcion. 460 yards and 6 touchdowns, and did lead the team in catches with 53. If you were to ask me, I know the numbers and some Wolfpack fans might say differently, was the most reliable target out of this room. And then Dakari Collins, 24 catches for 314 yards and a pair of touchdowns last season. I think he's going to be a really good weapon at his new destination, which is with the Louisville Cardinals. However, you do get Noah Rogers, your leading wide receiver from last year, coming back to the room, 478 yards and a touchdown on 35 catches. He's going to lead with lots of good pieces that are going to be waiting in the wings and are even going to be starting this season. Again, Noah Rogers, really young piece, redshirt freshman last year, now a redshirt sophomore, formerly from, I believe, Ohio State. I think I got that right. Yes, I do. You also do have Wesley Grimes and a true sophomore in Terrell Anderson, true freshman in Teddy Hoffman that can make a big impact to this wide receiver room, as well as a lot of returning pieces. Really not that big transfer that you're going to see coming into this wide receiver room. Now, when I talked about Noah Rogers, I said lead receiver. Lead pass catcher last season was Justin Jolly. He's going to be coming back this season to lead the tight end room, 661 yards and 4 touchdowns for Justin Jolly last year. So that's going to be a massive return for this NC State Wolfpack team. Again, pass game threats are going to be, I think, huge out of this tight end room this season. Not only behind Jolly, or Jolie, however you pronounce the last name. I realize that can be said both ways. Redshirt senior transfer that'll be returning this year. He again formerly went to Butler Community College. Dante Daniels, and then a true transfer coming into the program for the first time this year from Elon, and Cody Hardy was a pretty solid tight end over there. Offensive line wise, 3 starters must be replaced, but a center transfer in Jalen Grant is going to be a good leader amongst what's going to end up being a pretty talented group. Jalen Grant is a very talented player and could prove to be one of the better offensive linemen, not only in the ACC, but potentially throughout the country as well. He's coming over from Purdue, also formerly of Bowling Green. Anthony Carter is another big returner coming back to the left guard position. He is a graduate student, so there is experience, there is talent. Offensive line, you could call for a little improvement last season. I believe 27, 28 sacks allowed last year. That number can get better this upcoming season. Talk about overall thoughts in a minute. Right now, we do got to swing on over to DJ Elliott's defense. Now, when we usually talk about NC State football, it's a defense that you know is going to play well. It's a defense that's going to be physical and aggressive. You just didn't really see that at a consistent enough rate to what we usually see out of Dave Doeren defenses, especially out of DJ Elliott defenses as well. 24 sacks last season, that's all they could muster. In terms of turnovers, they actually did pretty well in that department. 10 interceptions, 10 fumbles. The turnovers were there. The overall aggressiveness, at least in the pass rush, was not. So for instance, to try to back up my point here, 33 sacks and 24 turnovers out of this defense in 2023. And statistically, they just looked overall a whole lot better as well. Want to back it up to 2022, even 28 sacks and then 22 turnovers last year. So again, the turnovers were there, the sacks maybe not as much. And even when you dive into some more of the statistics like rushing yards per game, passing yards per game allowed, things like that, it just wasn't as good of a defense as we're used to seeing out of NC State. I think it's going to start to turn around this season. How much? We'll wait my thoughts on on that. Sack leader David Van, he is gone off of this defensive front, no longer will be playing here with NC State. Let me pull up his stat line 1 second. Van last year off the edge, 6.5 sacks. Again, that did lead the team from last season. So you do get a ton of names such as Brandon Cleveland and Trevally Price that are going to be coming back here to this team. Cleveland off the interior, 36 tackles, half a sack last season. You're also going to be getting back Trevally Price, another guy off the edge. He had 3.5 sacks and 37 tackles last season, was very close, if not just reached that threshold of being a top 10 tackler last season. Josh Alexander Felton is a young piece that, according to ourlads.com, is projected to start. If not him, then there are a ton of other young pieces surrounding, with a few transfers that at the very least will provide some depth. Sebastian Harsh is one of those coming out of Wyoming. When you take a look and diving on into this linebacking unit, Kamal Bonner is now a member of the Canes in Miami. Really big piece to what this defense did last season, especially in the linebacking room. 56 tackles and a sack as a linebacker last season. However, your lead linebacker and your lead tackler from last season was Sean Brown. 96 tackles, 3 sacks, did have a pass defended last season as well. Caden Fordham, another big returning piece. 49 tackles, a sack, a pair of passes defended. You see him coming back with 3 dynamic transfers that are going to be entering this linebacking room. You are going to be getting Tra Thomas. In my opinion, that's the biggest one. 28 tackles last season, 4.5 tackles for loss, a pair of sacks. Did also have an interception with the Temple Owls last season. You are also going to be getting AJ Richardson. That's going to be coming in here to this program as well. He's coming over from Norfolk State. Sion Sloan had 7.5 sacks with Utah State last season, and it says 3. Why not? I'll throw the 4th one in there as well. Coming over from Northwestern, Kenny Soares is coming over there from the Big Ten program. He had 37 tackles, a pair of sacks in 2023. Hoping to get back to that, if not increase his production in 2024. Linebacking room, great. I think you got a lot of nice pieces here, including a couple big returners, some good transfers. Secondary, that thing got depleted. 5 top defensive backs. That's the 5 top tackling defensive backs from last season. All are no longer going to be playing football here for this team. Kaufman, White, Fitzgerald, Cooley, Marshall, those guys are all gone. However, you still do get a ton, or actually, sorry, Devin Marshall is back. My apologies, I misspoke. Devin Marshall is back from last season. Got ahead of myself a little bit in my notes. Sorry. Here is what Marshall did last year. Did have 33 tackles, led the team. No, second on the team. My apologies. Was 7 passes defended, and also second on the team with 2 interceptions last year. He'll be coming back to play that corner position for you. And then a lot of your other guys are going to be filling in here. A lot of guys that sat back and played backup roles last year, they'll be starting. You even do get a transfer, a really good one at that, coming into play safety for you. J.J. Johnson from Georgia State had 69 tackles last year, 73 tackles the year before, has known to pick off passes, had 6 passes defended last season, and is just over, I think, a really good piece to boost up that secondary. And with special teams all returning, we showed love to the kicking unit. And let's talk overall about this team really quickly. CJ Bailey, expect some improvement for him. Overall, we'll see how the rest of the weapons are going to be able to work in. But again, I believe Noah Rogers, Wesley Grimes, guys like that, they're going to be pretty good weapons there for CJ Bailey. I think the rushing game, while it might not get better, I don't think it's necessarily going to be worse than it was last season. But again, CJ Bailey, what's going to make this offensive motor run? Defensively, more aggressiveness, more consistency. That's what you need to preach out of this NC State defense this season. Let's look at the schedule. And when you turn your attention right over here, you see the NC State football schedule for 2025. But really quickly, odds right down below, courtesy of the good people over at FanDuel. Not me telling you to go place your money. It just does give some good it does provide some good context for how good the NC State Wolfpack are going to be this season. Plus 4,300 odds to win the ACC. That's in the lower range, and they're behind teams like North Carolina, Pittsburgh, things like, I should say teams like that. But again, it's not horrible. They're not way towards the bottom or anything, but a lot is going to have to happen for them to win the conference. Same thing to even get into the playoff and go win the national championship. 6.5 is that over-under total. So even the sports books are expecting improvement this year. Guys, this is a schedule that I would be pretty wary of if I was a Wolfpack fan because this first game here against East Carolina, I don't think it's going to be easy. While I do think NC State wins, I think East Carolina is a team that when you take a look at some teams in the American Athletic Conference, East Carolina is definitely a team compared to what they did last season that you could absolutely see massively improve or explode or be one of those surprise teams this upcoming season. Caton Hauser is going to be coming back, a ton of weapons both in the running back room, the wide receiver room, and even thirdly, the tight end room are going to be coming back. You brought in some really good transfers offensively, brought in some really good transfers defensively to pair with all the defensive talent you have returning. East not going to be an easy out. On a Thursday game, these two teams have played each other in the past. They've been some highly anticipated matchups, and the Pirates and Wolfpack usually play some really good games. I think this one's going to be no different. I don't think East Carolina wins the game. Would it shock me? Not necessarily, but I think NC State with CJ Bailey proves to be a little bit too much for the Pirate defense, although watch out for that one. If I were a Wolfpack fan, I would be nervous about that week 1 game, even though it is at home in Raleigh. However, I wouldn't be too nervous about your next two here. I do think you're going to be able to beat Virginia at home. However, again, Virginia, a team out of the AC that feels like, okay, this year they're going to get better. Okay, wasn't last year. This year they're going to get better. And I think the same thing being said about this team this year. I don't know if it's going to end up happening for them. And then at Wake Forest, new head coach, they're going to be needing some improvements and trying to get down the system as well as just build that talent pool, which is not there since the last head coach was there, I believe, in Dave Clawson. So when you overall take a look at this Wake Forest team, there's a lot of building that's going to have to get done. However, Jake Dickert coming in, pretty good head coach. He could be able to, build Wake Forest back up, but there is a lot of building that has to happen. So you do go on the road and beat Wake Forest on a Thursday night. You get to come back home a little bit, or I should say you don't get to come back home yet. You get to go stay on the road, a little bit of a longer week, but you go on the road and you play the Duke Blue Devils. It's a Duke team that I still like a lot, despite everything that they do lose, especially at the quarterback position with Malik Murphy, very talented weapon last season. I think they did well in the transfer portal in the wide receiver room. You're going to get Jaquez Moore coming back from injury, and even if he gets hurt again or isn't fully 100%, Peyton Jones was a solid back for them last year. As far as the quarterback position goes, Darian Mensah lit it up at Tulane last season. He could do the same thing again with the Blue Devils this year. And defensively, just a ton of talent returning in the secondary and the linebacking unit up front. Duke's going to be a hard out for a lot of teams this year, and they are an ACC sleeper, folks. They're still going to win a lot of games. Darian Mensah and all the weapons offensively, I think can provide some things to create havoc on this NC State defense. And as they start to improve, I think the East Carolina game can definitely be a little bit of a test for this Wolfpack defense right out of the gate. This is the biggest one so far, and I think you see some pains there in that one trying to defend Duke's offense. At home against Virginia Tech. It's a Hokie team I like a lot this season. This is one of those games to me that could go either way. I could go back and forth with that game, but I'm going to pick Virginia Tech because I like them just a little bit better. Kyron Drones coming back. If he takes a massive leap forward, and some may even say can drastically improve from what he did last season, he's got all the talent there within himself and surrounding him. Cameron Seldon, Donovan Green, some really good transfer pieces in the wide receiver room. Terry and Stewart, look at what he did at Bowling Green. He lit it up. I think he's going to be a really good back here in the ACC, and the defense going to continue to build and build and build under a defensive-minded coach in Brent Pry. Virginia Tech, a team this year out of the ACC that if you're looking for a team that maybe isn't getting talked about as a sleeper enough to really emerge this season, maybe it's time for Virginia Tech to take that massive leap forward. I think they got what it takes to beat NC State. Good news for the Wolfpack fans, though. You do get Campbell there in Week 6, an FCS opponent to come in Week 6, and I think you're going to be able to get that one done. Oh, by the way, I should say, NC State and Virginia, I believe it is, have agreed to play in non-conference fashion. So that game against Virginia, even though it is two teams within the same conference, I don't believe it counts towards either in the conference standings. Whether they win or lose, it doesn't count against them in the conference. So in terms of things to make the ACC championship game or things like that. So you beat Campbell, you go 4-2 through the first half, and this schedule, even though again I think Duke is a tough out, I think Virginia Tech's going to be a tough game. East Carolina, there again, don't sleep on them. The schedule is very backloaded. It is very backloaded, and I think you're going to start off with 2 losses right here. Well, first off, it would help to get the week right. This is a week 7 game against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. You don't get your bye week yet. So actually the good thing is you do get your bye week in between the 2 road games instead of obviously before the 2-game road stand. I did have the date right, just didn't have the week right. Apologies for that, the template I use. Whatever, fixed now. You're going to lose this game to Notre Dame, one of the best teams in college football. Jeremiah Love, the best in the business. I already don't see NC State being able to slow him down as much as they need to, so you can take that one to the bank already. But just in case you maybe have a feeling like, oh, but I think they're going to be able to contain him, which I don't believe they will. Really good wide receiver room. That's going to be a year more experience with some really nice pieces. Malachi Fields coming over from Virginia is a stud. CJ Carr, first chance for head coach Marcus Freeman to develop a quarterback prospect. He is going to be a star, and the Notre Dame defense will be one of the best in college football this season, hands down. And this is a road game, not winning this one. And I also don't think you're going to go on the road and beat Pitt. This is a Pitt team that I actually really, really like this season. It's because I think Eli Holstein's got all the talent in the world. He stays healthy. He'll take another step forward, and you saw what he could do throughout flashes last season. While you do have to fill in some pieces in the wide receiver room, you got some overall good talent, but Desmond Reed, man, one of the best dual threat running backs in the country, just period, one of the best running backs in the country, might be college football's biggest X factor. He is a gigantic play waiting to happen. He's electric, he's explosive, and the Pitt defense has got a lot of really good pieces there as well. It's a Pitt team that, again, like some of the other teams in the ACC, I think people are sleeping on a little bit. I think Pitt's going to be pretty solid. Pat Narduzzi, another coach you just don't count out. Okay, you're on a 2-game losing streak, but you get to come back home. It's the day after Halloween. It's spooky season. Things can still happen. Georgia Tech, I think, is going to come in with a ton of momentum, a ton of expectation, especially considering where they could be at this point in the season. They could be in ACC title game talks. If they get through and win a big game, like maybe they beat Clemson at home, Georgia Tech could be an ACC title game in college football playoff contention. I think NC State spoils it. They get one big win this season, whether it is Virginia Tech at home, whether it is Georgia Tech at home, which I'm predicting, or even later, you maybe are able to beat Florida State at home. I think NC State gets one this season. There's too much talent here, and Dave Doeren-led groups are too well coached to not have them get everything put together at least once this season. Georgia Tech has got all the talent in the world to be able to win this game. In fact, it's a game that, in my opinion, Georgia Tech should be able to win. With Haynes King coming back and Jamal Haynes and a great defensive cast and a really well-coached team by Brent Key, I think they slip and they stumble once this season. This is the one that I have them stumbling in. Rest of the way, in order for NC State to make a bowl game, you got to win one of the last 2 games against Florida State or North Carolina, because I don't think you're beating Miami. I think recency bias is getting the better of people when they think about Carson Beck because of all the interceptions he was throwing at Georgia last season. I still think that's a guy that can play a really, really good brand of football, and we'll get back to doing what he did in 2023 a whole lot more often. And yes, a ton of weapons are gone offensively, defensively. They're going to be able to fill those roles. They did well in the portal, and they still got some dogs in every single unit that they play. And I do believe Miami is going to win that game. I also do believe Florida State is going to be NC State. And even though this can also be one of those matchup type games where the 2 teams are pretty even, there's just no way Florida State has as bad of a season as they did last year. I like Tommy Castellanos. I think he's going to be hard to slow down with what this Wolfpack team has defensively. And I do think Florida State's able to get that win. But the game that matters the most to this fan base, and it will, especially if the schedule goes the way I've predicted it, you play North Carolina at home. Does the Bill Belichick NFL success transfer into the collegiate level? I think it could, but I think there's going to be some building and things that have to happen, and the culture and the style of team and just the style of program that Belichick wants to run. This is a guy that's never coached in college before. Dave Doeren has done it for a long, long time, and the game that, again, matters most, The folks in Raleigh win the game at home against the Tar Heels. They get the rivalry victory win, and they move on to a bowl game. So, not a step up from last season, not at all. Even though I think the product on the field can look better, this is a really treacherous schedule. If everything gets put together, they can win a lot more than 6 games. But right now, I got them sneaking into a bowl. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And as always, remember to play hard, tailgate harder. See you on the next video. Goodbye.